Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We got something different this week. This is Snake Plissken, a 70 Chevelle that I own, that I've been working on for a long time. And you guys might have seen it, not on the channel, but other places. We do a lot of stuff to this, trying to show what you can do with these old cars. We're in the process of installing one of American Powertrain's 6-speed Tremix in this. And as you guys may or may not know, to do that, you got to do a lot of modifications, which is fine. The problem I ran into is I was told you could use the stock cross member. You can't do that. So they offer a cross member that would have certainly worked for this application. But I also ran across SpeedTech's chassis upgrade for this. And what it basically does is brace up the A-frame suspension, or the A-body suspension. And it also ties in a transmission crossmember so that we can pick up the mounting points for this 6-speed transmission. So that's the route I went. It's a lot more labor intensive, certainly probably a lot more expensive than just getting a transmission crossmember that would work. But we've got some big plans for this car in the future to do autocross and stuff. And I'm always putting this car on the back burner. This year I decided I want to try to take it to Rocky Mountain Race Week, and we are running out of time to try to get there. So I'm trying to do a sort of all-out full court press kind of thing to get this thing buttoned up so it can get back on the road and we can take it to Rocky Mountain Race Week and race and just get out and have some fun and enjoy it. So that's what we're starting on here today. As you can see, I started removing the front clip already. You guys don't need to see that. It's pretty straightforward. And I'm in the process of knocking off the rest of this stuff so I can take the body back off the frame, and then we'll show you guys the SpeedTech Performance kit that we bought. Basically, it's going to tie both sides of the frame together and stiffen everything up so we lose a lot of that flex. It's going to give us a drive shaft hoop, which we need. It's going to give us that transmission crossmember, which we need, and just make for a lot better handling car when we're doing, autocross, or we're taking it to the road courses to do racing and stuff like that. So we thought we might as well bring you guys along for the ride and show you really what you can do with one of these things. And then, obviously I've never put in one of these kits before. Maybe you guys haven't either. None of this stuff is that hard. The whole idea behind this channel is to get you guys doing things yourself. Because if you do it yourself, yeah, you might make a few mistakes. Yeah, you might have to make some special tools, but you'll probably spend a heck of a lot less money than you will if you pay somebody else to do it. So we're going to go ahead and see what kind of trouble we can get into, and we thought we'd bring you guys along to show you, the mistakes and the challenges along the way. So like I said, I'm going to keep taking some of this stuff off so we can take the body off. I just got some electrical harnesses left. I want to drop the gas tank because I have to replace the sending unit in that anyways. And then we'll get it up in the air, remove the body mounts, and then we should be able to pick the body off no problem. So here we go. Okay guys, as you can see, this is the kit laid out from SpeedTech. This is what's going to become our transmission crossmember. As you can see, it comes into these slotted plates, so it gives you all kinds of adjustability. So you can start off with one transmission and end up with another. So if you're doing like an LS swap or something else, it gives you all kinds of flexibility. I did it this way because I'm going to turn this into a road course car eventually, and I might want to slide the engine back to give me a little bit better center of gravity for cornering. And it just gives me options. If I decide I want to put in a different engine and transmission combination someday, I don't have to knock these brackets off and re-weld them. But it comes with these plates so that we can box in the frame, and then these will come up along the frame rail, and they come right through these holes in the transmission crossmember and tie back to that cross brace, which is going to go over the drive shaft in the back. So this is going to really tighten everything up. And then as you can see, it comes with these plates that you basically slide in between the frame rail and the plate once you cut it to fit. And you could, they say you can either do self-tapping hardware so that this is removable, or you can plug weld in here and then weld along the perimeter. They're kind of thick, so you might want to bevel the edge so that you can get better weld penetration. I think I'm just going to permanently weld mine in, just because that seems like probably not the wisest thing to do, given my indecision and flexibility as far as this project has gone. But I don't really foresee me removing this once it's in. I'm going to do all the prep and cleanup on everything. The frame's been painted already a long time ago with some chassis saver paint that's held up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the frame in any spots that have deteriorated over the last 10 years, and then put all this stuff together and paint it for one last final time. But it does offer you that flexibility. If you think there's a reason that you might want to pull yours in and out, you can do that. The nice part is that the center section of that transmission cross member is, bolt in, bolt out, so you can drop that and you still have easy access getting the transmission in and out of there. So, kind of because of that reason and a whole host of other ones, I don't really foresee me doing that. It does hook into the body as well, and ties the body back into the frame. So it'll pick up those floor cross members that you see in the A body along here, along the front. It's got 2 pickup points, and then that hoop in the back has 2 pickup points that'll tie into the frame of the body itself as well. So I'll take you over here to the frame and show you what else we got to go with. Like I said, like 10 years ago, I sanded this frame down and painted it with chassis saver paint. I even have some still, and I'm really impressed with how it held up. Considering this car was in Michigan for a while, it did get drugged down here through a nasty snowstorm with all kinds of salt and road grime hitting the frame. So I'm still kind of impressed with how well it held up. Actually, you can see how bad the transmission cross member is. We've got the Tremec in here for now, but like I said, this cross member is not going to work with where we need to stick the Tremec to tie into the brace. So, and I wanted to do this anyways to tie the frame together. So it's just going to offer us a lot of options. So one of the first things we have to do is cut these tabs off. So what I'm going to do is remove the brake lines on this side and the fuel lines on this side and just droop them down a little bit. And then once I have everything installed in here, I can find some new pickup points for the hardware and secure them to the frame rail. I don't want to box them inside the frame, just because if I have to get at them or have a leak, then I'm going to have either fuel or brake fluid, doing damage inside the frame rail, and that's not ideal. So like I said, I'm going to drop those down out of the way when I'm doing all my welding and test fits, and then once I have everything where I know I need it, I can kind of move that stuff around. The brake line, I might have to do a new brake line, or excuse me, the fuel line might have to get replaced. I don't know. We'll have to see how everything lines up when it's done. The brake line is that flexible nickel copper line I showed you guys before, so it gives me all kinds of adjustability. I can move that out of the way. That'll be no problem. But like I said, the instructions are pretty detailed, but they're more of a guide, right? So this is going to be one of those things where you're going to custom fit it yourself. So don't expect things to just fit right away. You're going to have to do some massaging and walk up on cuts to get things to work. You're going to have to walk up on your cuts and everything and get everything to be massaged in place for that custom fit that you guys are looking for your specific application. But like I said, it shouldn't take us too long to do this. I'm hoping we can have it done here in the next couple days, move on to some of the other stuff we have to do to get this thing ready to go to take to Rocky Mountain Race Week. So I'm going to start cleaning all this stuff up and moving things out of the way. I'm going to leave the transmission in here for now, but once I go to start welding those box plates in, I'm going to take it out just because I don't want to risk getting any weld spatter or anything on it and, tearing something up and getting, my luck, I'll get a piece of slag through a connector or something and damage it. So I'll take the transmission out. I'm thinking about pulling the motor and cleaning it up while it's out. I got to, fix a couple things here and there, and I think I might paint it a different color. While I have it out, why not? And then we'll clean all that stuff back up and then put it back together. And the key for this is I think you could probably do it without the body on or with the body on, but it's just going to be way easier for us to do it without, especially the side plates when we're boxing everything in. When we go to start doing the rest of it, we're going to have to put the body back on and off and on and off so that you can make everything line up just right. Like I said, it's got to tie into these cross members up here in the floor of the car. So we're going to have to make sure we have all those dimensions just right. Test fit it a couple times before we weld it in the one last time. I also have some rot in the floors that I have to take care of, and somebody did just an awful patch job on the floors. I'm not sure if they're welded or glued. It's that bad. So I'm going to cut that out while I've got the body off. And then back here in the back, I got a couple spots I got to take care of too. So I figure while I got all this apart, I'll go ahead and clean all that stuff up too. And we'll show you guys how that looks when we're done. But like I said, I'm going to start cleaning all this stuff up, get those plates mocked where they need to go, and then start burning those in. Alright guys, so I thought I'd show you what we've done so far. So we got both sides cleaned up. I took all the surface rust off of it in any spots that needed to be cleaned up. And then this is weld through etching primer. I used this stuff from Eastwood's. It's not bad. And it's pretty good to weld through, and it holds up pretty nicely. So the first thing you have to do is come in here, and it has the stock plates that come here that give extra support to the seat channel of the frame rail. You got to cut that off, and then come back and make this feature sort of flush with the rest of the frame rail so that the boxing plates can meet up with it. And then I cleaned up these to make them nice and flush with that side panel patch piece so that it'll weld to it nice, and we'll box the whole thing in. There's a few spots we might have to clamp it to get it to fit real well, but that's no big deal. And I did the same thing to the other side already. I won't bother you guys with showing you that. So the next step is we'll grab those side plates and we will match them up to the contours and profile of the side rail and start spot welding it together. One of the things they say in the directions is to put like a ratchet strap or like come along or something on the frame to keep it square when you're welding, because you're going to put some heat in it. So I still have to do that just yet. When I measured it before I got started to see how out of square it was pretty close. It was within an eighth of an inch. So we're pretty good there. and I will go ahead and throw some ratchet straps on it, and then I'll make sure I move around a lot when I'm doing the spot welding, just to keep the heat out of it, and then take some breaks here and there. So we'll go ahead and fit that other side up and see how much more progress we can make today. Alright guys, I wanted to give you an update on where we are. So I've been working the last couple of days getting everything sort of tack welded in. I got the side plates in. That was a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be honest. The frame rails are pretty beat up on this car, so I had to do a lot of massaging to get everything to fit right. And then, as you can see, the next step is to tack in this rear brace. That hooks into the perches for the trailing arms and then to the side rails, so I have that tacked in place where I need it. It offsets to the passenger side. It's supposed to in the directions. I'm not exactly sure why they want to do that, because it makes clearance for the exhaust a little tougher, but I went ahead and did it. And then the next step is to start putting in these side rails with the transmission mounts, and I have this sort of tacked in place where I want it, because I want to see how the other one fits, so I make sure everything's in here. So this isn't in here exactly how I want it in the final product, but I just want to see how everything's supposed to lay out. And then it comes with these. It comes with plates that go on the end of the tubes to the frame, and then you can kind of massage those into place. So I used a C-clamp to hold it on one end, and then hammer to shape it to the contour of the frame rail in the exact spot that I want to put it. All in all, it's not overly difficult to do this job. It is time intensive, all the cutting and welding, tack welding, fitting, refitting, fitting, massaging, refitting again. Isn't too bad. The directions, I gotta be honest, aren't great. So these great examples, these tubes that run to the back, in the directions it implies that they're the same. It doesn't say anything different about them. But when you look at it, the relief cut to go around the tube is slightly different, at least on the set I have. So it sort of biases it to be one for the passenger side and one for the driver's side. So make sure you check that out if you have this kit, you're going to do the install, so that you know that ahead of time. I didn't know that until I was starting to fit this one up, and I noticed the relief cut was a little different for that tube, which would have put it better on the driver's side. So I went ahead and flopped them while I still could. And then it's again one of those things where you need to measure 2, 3, 4 times before you cut. Because you cut it too short, you can't weld it back on, but obviously you can massage it a little bit shorter if you need to. All in all, like I said, it's not too bad. It's causing the transmission to sit a little bit higher than I want it to. There's a couple things I can do about that. I could use a shorter transmission mount. That's one option. I can continue to massage the floor since I've got to do some patch panels there anyways. The way it kind of sits right now, the U-joint on the front of the drive shaft is going to have some clearance issues with the floor. So, like I said, I'll look and see if I can get a shorter transmission mount, and then probably end up taking some more out of the floor and fabricating a new piece to go over that to give me some more clearance. The driveline angles are coming out pretty good, so that's the only reason I would do that. If I had some more room, I would keep it lower and not have to hack into the floor, but to get the driveline angles where I want them to be, I'm going to have to do that, I think, which is fine. It'll give me a little more clearance in the end anyways. But sort of leaning forward, next steps, I got to fabricate that other side, get it tack welded in place, make sure everything's where I need it, make sure everything's level and centered. I centered the mounts on the transmission cross member just to give me play fore and aft. If I ever decide to change the engine and transmission combination, it'll give me a little room either way. But that's basically it. So once I have it all tack welded in place, I'll fit it to the body one more time. That's another key that this lift is really coming handy. I can drop the body on it, and I have done that a bunch of times just to make sure I have clearance. So I made sure I tucked that cross member as high up as I could to give me more clearance for the exhaust and the drive shaft. So it's pretty close to the floor, but not going to touch. And then I made sure these. Let's try this again. Hey guys, I want to update you on my progress so far. As you can see, I've got the side plates tack welded in, I've got that rear cross member tack welded in, and I've also got this passenger side mount tack welded in, and I'm in the process of cutting everything to fit for the driver's side. All in all, it's not too bad. It's a lot of fabrication, which I don't mind, but that's one of those things that can take you a while. A couple of things I wanted to point out along the way is, one, the directions don't say anything about these tubes being different. And they may very well not be, but the way I have mine, as I was trying to fit the passenger side, the tube seemed almost biased towards the driver's side with that relief cut on the back. It was a little bit deeper on the one side than the other. That shouldn't matter, but it fit way better on the driver's side than it did on the passenger side, so I flopped them. So check that out. I'm not sure if that means anything or not. Another thing is, it comes with these tabs that you weld to the various support pieces. So this one goes to the rear cross member, and this one runs to this longitudinal tube. And these tie into the cross members in the bottom of the body to sort of link everything together. So as you're going through test fitting things, make sure you keep that in mind. So what I did is I kept lowering and raising the body since I had the lift. Obviously that makes things a lot easier for me, but just to make sure these were going to sit where I wanted them to. I tucked that rear cross member up as high as I could to give myself clearance for both the drive shaft and the exhaust. It looks like it's going to be kind of tight around the exhaust for right now. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see how that lays out. But I've test fit the drive shaft a couple times and sort of ran the rear suspension through its articulation range to make sure I had clearance. So there's no issues there. And like I said, everything's sort of tack welded in place right now so that if I have some kind of issue, I can still remove the things that I need to remove. All in all, the kit's not bad. The instructions could be better. They're really just a guide. It's like a narrative toward what you might do, but doesn't really give you any dimensions or measurements or anything. So as you're doing this, make sure you're taking measurements so that these bars link together and they have the same spacing from the frame rail on either end. I will say it's causing the transmission to sit higher than I would like ultimately. And there's a couple things I can do about that. I could get a shorter transmission mount. The one I threw in there was just one I had laying around. It's really more for like a Turbo 400, Turbo 350. So I could do that, and that would give me a little bit of drop. The driveline angles are coming out kind of where I want them, unfortunately. So I don't know if I'm probably not going to go that route. What I think I'm going to end up doing is clearancing the floor. I've already got to cut a huge amount of floor space out to get this 6-speed in there. Which is one of the drawbacks to going to the 6-speed. The 5-speed, you can, according to the guys at American Powertrain, you can almost do it without cutting the floor, which would have been nice, but I want that extra gear just so this thing is a little bit more freeway friendly. I can drive it to work if I want to, turn it into a more daily driver commuter kind of thing, which is what I'm after. So the issue I'm going to have is the U-joint on the front of the drive shaft is not going to have enough clearance around the floor. So right now it's close, but not exactly where I want it. This mod is actually going to lock the frame together, so it may not move. There's a couple guys who've done this mod that I've watched their sort of afterthoughts video, whatever you want to call that, and a couple of them, the transmission and driveline still moves around, and they get contact with the floor on that U-joint. But those guys are all running just like a regular cross member. So I'm not sure how much difference this will make. And to be honest with you, looking back, I probably would have just gone with the new cross member. This is a lot of work just to get a transmission cross member. That's just ultimately why I did this. But I have some big plans for this thing in the future, like I said. So I wanted to lock the frame together to make it a little bit more sturdy. And see if I could say a couple more times. What else? It's hot. I'm tired. Pretty sure I broke my finger. I got that going for me. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. The way I've been doing it is levels, and then I have this protractor. I just bought this at Sears, I don't know, 10 years ago. But you can pick these up anywhere. And it's great for doing stuff around the house, but you can also use it to measure driveline angles. You can do it on your phone too. So this is almost useless. I'm basically a dinosaur. But you can set it on the various stuff. It's got a magnet on it, and it'll tell you what the angle of drop and stuff is. So like I use that to measure my driveline angles, to measure my overall transmission angle of my drive shaft, to get these things where I want them. Like I said, this is really one of those custom fit things, and you determine how things will best work for you. So I've put these things in not exactly like I originally thought I was going to, mostly to clearance the floor. It swoops and dives in all kinds of spots and really creates some clearance issues, especially around where your feet go up here in the front and the back. So I had to move things around a lot more than I thought I would. But like I said, all in all, it's a pretty good kit. There's things I would change about it, like the dimensions on that rear cross member are off. It biases these rearmost support bars that tie into the rear trailing arms. They're too far inward. Like, in my opinion, they need to be farther outward to tie into the strength of the frame, and less on those stupid little dog tabs that the rear trailing arms use. And then the other thing is make sure you're checking measurements. So when I do big welds, or big sections of welds on this, I'm using ratchet straps and a come along to make sure I don't twist anything, and I'm constantly checking my measurements to make sure that the frame is square and that I'm not warping it, and just to make sure that everything fits when I'm all said and done. So my car, the outside dimensions on the body are 59 inches. The frame, to get everything where you need it and the holes to line up, you got to keep it about 57. So that's what I've been doing. And then the biggest thing I would recommend is patience. A lot of patience. This is not a one-person job. I'm doing it with one person because I don't have and basically another alternative. So go to this hardware store if you're going to try to do this yourself. Get welding magnets so that you can hold things together. Get some different assortment of jack stands so that you can keep things where you need to keep them. Use a floor jack to move things around as the alarm goes off. You could do this without the lift. Certainly, you just need something to get the body up enough to where you can weld the stuff on the top. But to be honest with you, removing it really just helps me have more ease of access to everything. And I don't want to lay on my back. And then, obviously I don't have any. Maybe I could say obviously a few more. And then the other issue I have is there's no cross member to hold the transmission up, so I can't go jacking this thing up in the air, or I'll smush the oil pan. It's a lot of welding. A lot. And the surface area is not a ton, so you can only really weld 2 to 3 inches at a time in any given spot, so you got to jump around. So my advice would be tack weld the side plates in enough to give them the structural integrity you need, move on to the rear cross member, tack weld that in place, and then start fitting these side pipes. And as you tack weld these in, you can run some more longer beads on the side pieces and the rear cross member. But just take your time. Don't put a lot of heat in. The last thing you want to do is get this thing fitted together and then put a bunch of heat and warp it. That would be a bad day. The other tip is I primed the side plates on the inside with a weldable primer from Eastwood, and then I painted them. But before I painted them, I ran a bead of tape along an edge to protect the weldable primer, so I would have a seam to weld to, but they'd still be protected for the most part because I don't want it to rust from the inside. Once these plates are on, with the exception of the holes for the body mounts, you can't really get access to paint them afterwards. Obviously that goes without saying. The other thing is watch your how true these side plates go in, because these cross members are going to have to tie into that plate. So if you smash them with a hammer and make them all weird shaped and cockeyed when you go in there, that's going to impact your cross member alignment. So obviously keep that in mind. You'll want to remove the fuel lines and the brake lines and the parking brake cables to get those out of your way. If you want to use the stock parking brake cable, you have to notch those rearmost tabs where they hit the rear trailing arms. If you don't, you won't be able to run that cable back through that the provision that's in there. What else? I think that's basically it. Can't think of anything else. The one other thing is the plates that go on the side have holes on either end. They say you can use self-tapping screws to hold them in. I've been massaging them to the contour of the frame where I'm going to put them, And then I use those 2 holes to put in some like big fat plug welds just to hold it in place. But not so much that I couldn't smack it off with a hammer if I needed to move it. Just because, you know, I make mistakes from time to time, so I want to allow myself that flexibility if I need it. The other thing, big thing, protect your transmission. If you're going to be welding with this thing in here like I am, put a welding blanket on it so you don't damage anything. There's tons of sensors coming off this thing and wiring harness. This vent tube is like the most fragile thing I've ever seen. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to burn through some of that stuff and have to be replacing parts on it before you even get a chance to drive it. So I'm going to keep plugging away at this. I'm going to keep moving on the passenger side. Alright guys, as you can probably tell, I got the kit all installed and everything. Well, not all installed, that's a lie. So, alright guys, I wanted to show you my progress now that I had to change the battery and try this again. You can see I got everything roughed in here where it needs to go. I have to finish doing the welds on the bottom side, and then these brackets I showed you guys earlier, I've got to install those. Those drive part of your height between the rails and the body, and then the rest of it's sort of driven by trying to clear the rest of the floorboard. And then you can see how the transmission mounts in here. This allows you to shift it back and forth so that you can put the transmission wherever you need it for whatever transmission you've got going. But as you can see, it connects the front to the back. Probably not my best work, but we're getting there, so we'll keep welding. And once I get it all welded up, we'll clean up the frame and paint everything. And I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's all done. Alright guys, so as you can see, we got the frame bracing and everything complete. I went ahead and painted it with chassis saver paint, and I did it, you know, a couple coats, made sure it was nice and thick, and I got some runs in it just because the paint was probably older than my oldest son. That's probably how long I've had it, because I bought it for that car a number of years ago. So yeah, it's probably 11 or 12 years old. So no big deal. It still worked. It just didn't want to stick real well at first. So I still got to take care of a couple spots like this mount for the transmission. I only painted it in a couple spots, but I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. But as you can see, this is all done. Everything's welded in. It's nice and strong. I put these tabs in so I can mount it to the body on the underside. I haven't drilled the holes yet because I'm going to go ahead while I've got the body off and take care of some floor repair that I need to do. And I figure once I got that done, I'll go ahead, drill the holes for this, and go ahead and get it mounted. All in all, this was a pretty labor-intensive project, but I did it because I really wanted to stiffen the chassis up so that I could do things like autocross and things like, drag racing and stuff later. A bunch of different places make a kit. For example, so I'll show you guys this transmission installed on another car. We went ahead and got another one of these for the wagon. I'll show you that in the future. But with the wagon, I just went ahead and got a new cross member. They say it fits with the original one, but I wanted some flexibility, so I went ahead and bought one that they have that's adjustable. It'll clear different exhaust setups and give you adjustability for the transmission to change your pinion angle a little bit. But like I said, I did this one even though it didn't exactly make sense because I wanted that stiffness. The A-body chassis is pretty flexible, being the way that it is with no real support in the middle of it. It's almost like a ladder bar chassis in that way that it gets a lot of articulation front to rear, and I wanted to get rid of that. And this sort of seemed like the best option to do that for me. Because at the end of the day, we ended up boxing the frame on either side. We've got these supports running side to side as well as lateral. It ties everything in real nice. It gives us the chance to adjust where the transmission is located if we want to shift the entire engine and transmission forward or backward to get better center of gravity and dynamics. when we're racing the car. And then this car was always meant to be more of a custom car than a true like traditional restoration. Regardless, I'm rambling, so I'll go ahead and cut this off. You guys can see that it's done. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions. All in all, this kit was $700 to put in. I went through a lot of welding wire, a lot of flat discs to cut down on the welds and everything, and clean everything up, and then the paint itself. So, you know, obviously it's a lot more than just replacing a cross member or modifying the original cross member, but it gets you to a different place. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and like I said, the next to come is we'll be redoing the floors in the Chevelle, and go ahead and finish the transmission install. I'll show you guys how that all comes together in another video, and then I got some other stuff in this I want to show you guys. Thanks for watching.